Welcome to the Crypto and Blockchain Talk.
Hello.
Hey.
Guten Tag.
Aloha.
Hola. Shalom.
Hello. Namaste.
Ni hao.
Privet.
Hello.
Salut.
Yassas.
Salve.
Ciao.
Bonjour. Our podcast talks about the latest trends in the worlds of cryptocurrencies and the blockchain. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Crypto and Blockchain Talk. And this week I have with me none other than the most illustrious person I know of in the law space, Mr. Jonathan Dunsmore. In case the audience does not know, Jonathan Dunsmore is the founder and principal of Dunsmore Law. Now, because we're going to be talking about a number of projects here on this podcast, what I want to do is have Jonathan do his disclaimer, which we love to hear. So, Jonathan, over to you.
Thank you so much. This information that we are discussing is purely for educational purposes only. This is not investment advice, this is not legal advice, and this is not financial advice. Please do your own research, and anything that is said or may be said during this podcast is my personal opinion or Aviva's personal opinion.
Okay, so look, let's just look at this. This week, Bitcoin has hit 23,000 US dollars. And it's amazing because I think we all suspected this was going to happen again. Obviously, the last time we came this close to tickling the underbelly of this kind of amount of money was in December of 17. It's now, we're coming into 2021, pandemic time and everything else. But, it's been interesting because major companies, institutional investors, left, right, and center, all over the world have been basically putting their money where their mouth is. Or I should say, putting their money now where their crypto is. Oh, God, that sucks. And because, of course, we already talked about on these podcasts, all these major investments, of course, the latest ones being Square with their 50 million Bitcoin investment and growing, Grayscale. Of course, Massachusetts Mutual with 100 million US dollar investment into Bitcoin. If anybody wants the full list of all these purchases and these amazing amounts that have hit the news in terms of institutional investors buying Bitcoin, just look through the library of previous podcasts. But nevertheless, Bitcoin has now hit 23,000 per Bitcoin. And how do you feel about this, Jonathan?
I'm excited, but I'm also wary. I think that a lot of people are using this as a hedge against the inflation that we believe may be coming in the dollar. But also, there's a belief and a strong belief that the capital markets are over leveraged. And so over the next couple months, we're going to start seeing some really bad repercussions of the coronavirus in the markets, whether there is a vaccine or not. And so I think that most people are using this as an opportunity to kind of hedge their bets. I think that, overall, for the markets, it's going to be a great thing to get more people involved in the Bitcoin space and the cryptocurrency markets. But I would not believe it's the end-all, be-all for crypto, nor do I think that we're probably not going to fall back below 20,000 again, possibly in early Q1 or something like that. So I think that this is just the beginning of the rise of Bitcoin, and I think that it's going to continue, but I do think that we'll probably see a slide back forward as markets repair and jobless claims start to reduce probably in the first or second quarter of next year, depending on how fast we can get this vaccine out and this virus under control.
Well, it's really funny because I have a camp of friends who really believe any second Bitcoin is going to come tumbling down. And I have another camp of friends who think that Bitcoin is going to keep using crampons to climb up that mountain and keep going up and up, and they don't see it falling, like you said, anytime soon. I, of course, have my opinion, and I'm not going to say my opinion on air because I don't want to be responsible for anyone doing anything, even though we have a disclaimer, although I tend to be right. But anyway, of course, I'm going to say that because I'm not telling you what my position is. But what I will say is this. One of the reasons why cryptocurrency was getting such a look in the last couple of years, because as we already noted, many famous, well-known brands have been going into this arena. They've been going into the crypto space, like we said, with PayPal and Square, etc. And of course, one of the most famous names is Facebook. And Facebook, as we know, they came out, it was a couple of years ago, with their Libra coin. and was called Libra. Congress hauled them in. I'm giving, by the way, the Cliff Notes version, folks, and giving the very short version of this. If you want the long version, you can go through, again, the library of podcasts and find our full podcast on the Facebook Libra project. They went to Congress. Congress beat them up with sticks and bats and sent them packing because, quite frankly, they saw that if Facebook actually went forward with this project, that they could see this becoming a humongous competitor to the US dollar. Pretty much. That's the reason I can see why they looked so fearful, especially in Congress. But just to speed it up to this day and age, it's not called the Libra Project anymore. It's now called Diem, which, of course, Carpe Diem, seize the day. And the new wallet, which used to be called Calibra, is now, I think, called Novi. And there's probably going to be even more changes. I find the name change really strange because there's already a fintech company named Diem. So I don't really get this whole brand confusion thing. And speaking as a marketing professional, you would think that Facebook, having as much knowledge as they do in this space, the first thing they would say is there somebody else out there called Diem? And the minute they saw there was, they would have ixnayed the project.
Well, I think that goes to the bigger point that Facebook believes they're above the law. I have a former colleague of mine whose client is also named Libra in another part of the world, and they had this same kind of issue with Facebook sending them a cease and desist, of which she was able to quickly bat down. But, I mean, Facebook has a history of believing it's above the law, whether it's, the Cambridge Analytica stuff or, the current antitrust issue with the federal government. I mean, those are the types of things where they have this moral high ground in either their opinion or Zuckerberg's opinion. And the next thing we know, there's litigation or there's something uncovered where a whistleblower comes forth and tells us most recently that Facebook did not care for any fake or false advertisement as long as Facebook was getting paid. And so these are kind of well-known facts in the litigation that's going forward. Whether the allegations are always true, the facts remain that Facebook has a history of skirting the law. And I think that with this most recent case with the FCC, I think we're going to start uncovering that Facebook, for the most part, is probably not a really good platform to have something like a stable asset like Diem or whatever the hell they want to call it.
They are planning on launching their stablecoin in the first quarter. Actually, it's not even first quarter. It's like the minute the first quarter opens, I should say, in 2021. They're looking at really coming off the ground hot in January, which is next month. So the way that they've put it is that they're actually going to be releasing this in a more limited format than the original multi-currency basket that they envisioned, which I can see that. Obviously, it's kind of a more organic release. It's more manageable. And especially with the other stuff that's happening in their lives, it makes it less of a mess, I guess, because the other problem going on with Facebook at this moment, as we all know, which I am so excited to be asking you, being the professional lawyer that you are, the person in this space. Currently at this time, the state of New York is going after Facebook. And it's not just Facebook, I should add. It's also Google. And it has to do with the antitrust laws. So if you could just go into this, and even though Google is also mentioned in this, if you could really focus on the Facebook part, considering that I really want to see how this is going to impinge on their launch of Libra Diem.
Thank you. That's a great question. So there's actually two different lawsuits. There is one where a group of states are suing Google and Facebook for basically a conspiracy-like attempt to subvert the massive amount of advertising dollars to people that are only advertising on one or the other's platform. And so when AdSense and Google or Facebook team up, paid advertisement on Facebook is somehow directed towards what that person has looked to on their Google history, specifically for search items, then those are kind of how those things are linked, as well as paid promotions within Facebook itself. So, for example, one of the allegations is that when you would pay to have a promotion on Facebook, Google would rank that higher than, say, a non-paid promotion. So if I had a restaurant in which I was, advertising my 2-for-1 special that would be ranked higher than a competitor of mine who was not. Also, there's some question about whether the mapping and those type of geolocation things are part of this, but we've got to go through what's called discovery and all these other kind of interesting things to see what actually kind of comes out. Now, there is another lawsuit by the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, which is charging Facebook with antitrust laws, basically that they are a monopoly because they have been systematically buying up competitors such as Instagram and WhatsApp in the attempt to not have to deal with their competitive nature as a rival to Facebook. There's some pretty damning evidence that Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg has said it is better to buy a competitor than to let them basically live on and grow to be competition. I don't know if he's learning the lessons of Blockbuster having the opportunity to buy Netflix or one of the other dozens of stories along those similar lines throughout business law and business history. But that's kind of the case right now, is that the government believes they have substantial reason to believe that they've created a monopoly by buying up any competition. And with their market cap there, they have the ability to do so.
But I don't understand one thing, and maybe other listeners are in the same space as me. But why wait till now? Why not stop it when they saw this going through, especially as the Attorney General for the state of New York pointed out, they bought these companies when they didn't even have a bean in the bank themselves. So it wasn't something that could have caught anyone by surprise. So why wait?
There's a couple of reasons. That lawsuit is different, right? That's the one where Google and Facebook are conspiring against people who are not buying their advertising dollars, right? Are not using their advertising dollars on those two platforms. The FCC one, which is interlaced with this one, but also just directed at Facebook, is a monopoly issue, an antitrust issue of monopolization. And so in those, depending on the scale and size of different business deals, sometimes they have to be cleared by federal regulators. And in those clearing documents, one of the reasons that the federal government allowed Facebook to move ahead with these purchases, of which at the time they did have substantial assets because they were publicly traded. One of the reasons the government let this stuff go through is that the idea was and this never happens, but I don't know why they allowed it, is that the different entities being purchased were to remain separate. And so you can't have the director of communications for Facebook and the director of communications for WhatsApp and Instagram basically be the same person. They're not supposed to share offices. They're not supposed to, do all of those kind of things. They're supposed to be different. Mm. And in theory, that would have made them competitors to themselves. Should you not buy from, going back to my restaurant analogy, should you not buy my buy one, get one free special at that location, but you buy it at a different location, I still get the money. And that's kind of what federal regulators were looking for when it came to, how business was to be conducted between Instagram, WhatsApp, and Facebook. Now, it is our understanding with the filings that is not what has occurred, meaning that they have been basically in monopolistic cooperation to either weed out other competitors or to simply work together to make sure that Facebook is integrated, Facebook Messenger especially is integrated with WhatsApp, and then Instagram is now connected to your Facebook account. And then there's also the problem in Germany where in order to use your Oculus, you have to have a Facebook account. So there's a number of ways in which Facebook is trying to maintain its hold on the public by requiring that they create either a Facebook account, an Instagram account, or a WhatsApp account, and that they're all interconnected. And so I think as we continue to, once again, kind of go through discovery and see what comes up, we're probably going to find some very damning evidence that this was kind of the plan all along to integrate Messenger into Facebook through WhatsApp and eventually try to basically control everyone's communications through that one platform. WhatsApp is far more popular than Facebook is.
It's not even just the state of New York that's now launching these suits against Facebook and Google and whoever else is listed. It's now other states have signed up with the state of New York. Is that not correct? And how does that work? Because what is it that they want to accomplish, do you feel, out of this? Do they want to break Facebook up? Is that what it is?
I don't think they want to break Facebook up, but I do think they want to regulate it. I think it's a matter of Facebook combined with Google have a an unfair advantage of finding where people are going to eat or where they're promoting their business. And so if you simply pay to play, you will be better listed on both Facebook and Google. And that is because they are in bed and sharing information from what we believe or have reason to believe in the documents that the government has uncovered, that those types of activities at that level are not fair practices. And so I do believe that, once more detailed investigations are launched into what is actually going on, I think that we will see that that's the case, because as you and I both know, finding even various legitimate crypto projects on Google is sometimes very difficult, as well as finding the equivalent ads or Facebook pages for certain projects, simply because it's crypto or blockchain related. And so it's those types of activities that could lead to a question of why are treating a certain industry or a certain group different than others, especially when both have fairly comprehensive understandings of what blockchain is, what cryptocurrency is, and how it is used. So I do believe that as this case progresses, we're going to start seeing more and more damning evidence these two were in cooperation as of ways of grabbing what is the arguably largest market cap in the world of marketing.
Well, okay, so is it just me and my special tinfoil hat, or is it the fact that this announcement came after Facebook said that they were going to go into this payments space, into the crypto space quite heavy? Do you think, and this is obviously, we don't have inside information, nobody's in Zuckerberg's bedroom, and we are definitely not in the halls of the SEC or in any state attorney's office, but, the fact that they have been going heavy in, and they, of course, are based in Switzerland, for their cryptocurrency. I'm talking about Facebook now. They based their, what used to be called Libra Association. I guess it's called Diem Association now. I don't know, but they based themselves in Switzerland for their launch of their Libra/Diem cryptocurrency. Do you think that there's a link here as I adjust my tinfoil hat?
I mean, I think there could possibly be a link. As we've said previously, the Facebook believes it's above the law in a lot of ways and in its actions. And so by its, attempt to either continue with what it believes is its rightful path in this market, in this cryptocurrency market, to launch Libra or Diem or whatever they want to call it, does that mean that they have the legal right to? I think that that's probably going to be litigated against. And I imagine that there's going to be a question of how some of it works related to, the transactionality of it. And so I don't know if this is an attempt to take some of their time and effort away from that project, or this is simply just an attempt to hit them right now where they believe they've got enough evidence of them not behaving properly, and therefore no time like the present. I do think it is a little bit unique in the timing, but I also think that given everything that's going on with Facebook and their continual brushes with the law, that it was only a matter of time before something like an antitrust lawsuit came out, or collaborations with other tech providers to kind of circumvent competitors is something that Silicon Valley is known for. So I don't think it's that serendipitous. I don't think necessarily the tinfoil hat has to come all the way on, but I do think that it is a pretty good timing regardless.
Yeah, well, I think my tinfoil hat is definitely in my hand, and I don't think I'm going to be putting it down anytime soon. Now, you see, going back to what I was saying before, WhatsApp was actually given the green light in Brazil. The country's central bank said that as long as they stick to all the rules, that they are happy for WhatsApp to allow the payments program to happen through WhatsApp. They were more than happy to give that green light. WhatsApp said that they would not stifle competition. And they said that by working with Celio, who have a 41% market share down in the Brazilian market, regulators were worried because they were thinking that WhatsApp, of course, would boost its transactions and take over the rest of the market share. But this is the thing, because they really wanted to proceed correctly, it looks like in Brazil, they went to the regulators to first get their permission. And it looks like the permission was given in Brazil. But at the end of the day, even if they said, okay, we're going to regulate you in the United States, they've already positioned Libra DM Association and the release of this cryptocurrency over in Switzerland. So isn't it just like, good luck, Charlie, in trying to do anything with that? I mean, especially if this is part of Facebook, which arguably it is. It's Facebook's cryptocurrency. It has Facebook written all over it, even though it doesn't have it written all over it. It's called something else. But do you get my drift? I mean, it's not like they're going to be able to do anything about this now, can they? Because this is a cryptocurrency that's now living in Switzerland.
That's where things are going to start getting really wild, because when we do have a global currency, or you do have something that is tough to shut down in one jurisdiction, let alone all jurisdictions, I do think that we'll see different regulators on different public companies. And because they are a public company, because they are located in the U.S., I do think it becomes a situation in which if the U.S. government or any other government wants to put a squeeze on them, that they absolutely and utterly can. Now, does that mean that it's going to be a situation in which as soon as this thing goes live, or the FBI agents kicking in somebody's garage and claiming them? I don't think that that's the case. I don't think that that's what we're going to be seeing here. But I could see in the near future, if there is not a cooperation, especially with some of these larger companies, where there could be, if not criminal, definitely civil charges for operating without proper licenses, especially depending on what location they could be in. That could definitely be a situation where they are charged criminally, and that would absolutely be a deterrent, in my opinion, for most people to participate in a market like this.
I got to ask you this question before we go on to the next topic, and that is, don't you really feel that you can, you were saying before, Facebook thinks it's above the law because they're so huge. Don't you really think that there is a case for being above the law? Because look at Deutsche Bank. Look at so many banks who have gotten away with blue murder. Yeah, I mean, literally blue murder. It doesn't make any sense to me that they're still operational, but not only are they operating, they're doing very well. Thank you very much. I mean, Facebook aren't stupid. They're also massive. So is WhatsApp and so is Instagram. They could literally go anywhere. They don't have to be in the United States. I mean, don't you think their lawyers are going to be smart enough to be thinking of how to play this chess game?
I don't think lawyers are smart when it comes to most businesses, especially something as complex as this. I mean, and that's, one of the things that I love and hate about the entire crypto industry is that, in a lot of ways that we are making the path, and for better or worse, that path can be successful or it can be an absolute disaster. We've seen that with some of the early days of crypto and what has gone on, even that we've discussed as looking back towards what we believe, Libra could have been. And looking at those lawyers who are using the defense, come at me, bro, to the federal government is sometimes beneficial, but in most times costing your client a lot of time and money and headaches. And so I'm not sure that this is the fight or the hill that I would want to die on, but I imagine with Facebook's amount of resources that it is something that it at least wants to try to push the envelope. And the fact that podcasts like this and people are talking about it in the news again could be something that is simply helps dissuade from these other antitrust lawsuits that it may be facing. So we'll see is unfortunately the ultimate answer.
Facebook, they're not a storefront. They're not selling goods to a public where you have to go walk in the store. They just have to go pack up their backroom servers, and they don't even have to do that. Everything's probably in the cloud, and they probably don't even have to do that. They could probably burn down their facilities and start somewhere again without interrupting so much as a nanosecond of activity. So I also want to talk about, and I find this hysterical. I just find the word usage hysterical because Coinbase have just announced that they have confidentially submitted their S1 because they plan to go public. In other words, they have confidentially, which that's confusing me because how confidential is it when they've just released this on Twitter? So they have just confidentially filed for an IPO, which to me is a huge sign of Bitcoin or crypto enthusiasm, and optimism. So for our listeners, can you first explain what the hell an S1 is?
So an S1 is a registration to conduct a public offering, basically listing. And so that is the foundational documents to move forward as a public company. And there's different ways that it can become effective, truly effective, meaning that the SEC has reviewed it kind of thing. But then there's also, I was just speaking with someone else about this, as a way to subvert those comments. And so if the SEC comes and says, we have 20 pages worth of comments and Coinbase and look at those and go, no, thanks, we're not interested. There's a mechanism for it to basically go live as long as there's an exchange to list on. Now that becomes the really interesting part of this entire, if there's a place where Coinbase can list on without having, a quote unquote approved registration statement from the SEC and basically goes live or effective under that rule. I do think that there's a possibility that that may be what happens, but I also recognize that Coinbase is probably going to play well with regulators since it has in the past, and it continues to hand over information regarding crypto transactions without any warrants or subpoenas or anything like that to the government. And so I do believe that they're going to play well with the SEC, and they're going to, try to see what the street's appetite for this market is, which is why they filed it, quote unquote, confidentially, which just means that investment bankers and other people can talk about it without knowing not all of the specifics. You've got to be an investment banker insider kind of thing to know what's exactly on that file.
They say that there's a valuation out there exceeding $8 billion US dollars, right? And so Coinbase looks like a very interesting prospect for investors. But I just think it's very strange because lately they've been having some really weird technical glitches on their site. Why now, when they have been having glitches on their Coinbase platform, why they would choose now to do this? Don't you think they would have waited until they've been ironing out all these technical glitches, making themselves look completely robust? Because as we all know, Coinbase is centralized for sure. This is a very easy thing to probably break into if you have the nous and the will. It's interesting times for anyone, obviously, in the fintech space because, I hate to mention this because everyone's sick of it, but, it's COVID times and people are really, really looking at these things that have to do with investments. And do you think people understand what they're investing in if they have a project like this that's valued at $8 billion but still has technical glitches? Why in the world would you say, yeah, we want to do this IPO, but we're having major technical problems?
That's a great question. I think the answer is twofold. So, let me go back to the initial statement about why they would file a confidential S1 but announce it everywhere. The reason that they're filing it confidentially is to kind of get in my personal opinion, is to get an idea of what the market will value it at. If it is a situation in which the market values it at that 8 billion or more market cap, then I think that there's no way in hell they're not going to do an IPO. If it does not, and the street is very leery of crypto exchanges, anything like that, then there's a good chance that all of that kind of falls flat. I don't think that that's the case, though. That being said.
Yeah, Coinbase is infamous for crashing, though, during any Bitcoin surge. And it really sucks if you want to get customer service from Coinbase support during these times because they are not the best at their customer service. Can you imagine, though, that they go through, they have a successful IPO, and then they go and freeze millions of customers out from their accounts when they're trying to do important trades?
I think that that's something that unfortunately is going to happen. I think that because this technology continues to advance and evolve, and Coinbase does not, for whatever reason, want to invest in a firmer infrastructure, whether it's customer support or technical support or anything like that, I do think that that's going to be one of the crippling effects for them long term. But that being said, I know that you and I both know that the rises of DEXs and that entire new marketplace is going to disrupt these custodians and these centralized exchanges primarily for the purposes in which you've articulated. I don't think that people are going to want to use an exchange that can be hacked or doesn't provide you with the customer service that you want, or most recently it was announced that they sent out the wrong IRS forms to people, or told the IRS that this person was dealing in crypto and would, like I said, hand over any information to the government at a mere email or text. So it's those types of behavior that I think people in this industry should rebuke and not work with Coinbase. We've stopped using them. I do think there's better alternatives. I do think some of those better alternatives are starting to come to the marketplace more and more. And so what I'm really hoping is that in 2021, we start seeing a really solid foundation of not only the DEX world, but also the custodianship when it comes to having actual control over your wallet and your keys. You know, the old saying of not your keys, not your crypto.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I believe this industry was so tough to get in, because even now, in order for me to indoctrinate someone into the crypto world or Bitcoin, it's really tough to send them Bitcoin without having a solution where I've already created their wallet. And that's kind of really weird. Like, if you wanted to give Bitcoin as a Christmas gift, how would you do it with someone who is a novice or doesn't have a wallet? Those examples are just some of the primary reasons that blockchain and Bitcoin are so revolutionary, but also very difficult to get that initial first step. And so that's what we're working on. And that's what I think that, 2021 will bring, for better or worse, with, people talking about Diem and people talking about Coinbase and this entire movement forward as Bitcoin continues to climb.
It's going to be a very interesting end of year. Lord only knows what's going to happen before we ring in January 1st. Who knows, folks? Are we going to be looking at a $40,000 Bitcoin? Are we going to be looking at a $3,000 Bitcoin? Are we going to be looking at Facebook being trounced in the ground by the legal echelons of the United States? Lord only knows, and we certainly don't hear, do we, Jonathan?
We have no idea. I hope we don't see a $3,000 Bitcoin, but if we do, I will buy. I will buy on the red.
Oh, Lord.
No problem.
Jonathan, I want to thank you so much for coming on to this week's Crypto and Blockchain Talk. You are a wonderful person to speak to about this, and we always have a good laugh.
We do. Thank you so much for having me. If anybody needs to reach out to me, please do. If you have any of these kind of questions or problems with anybody in crypto and blockchain, please let us know. We're trying to clean up this industry as best we can in 2021, so some of these bad companies don't continue to perpetrate their bad actions in the market. So thank you for everything, Aviva, as always. I truly appreciate having the opportunity to chat with you and everybody.
Well, I just want to say to all of our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's edition of Crypto and Blockchain Talk. As we said at the beginning of the podcast, please do your own research. And remember that, even though I just read a report that gold, unfortunately, is suffering as more people are looking to invest into cryptocurrency, you have to remember still that crypto is very volatile. So just remember to do your due diligence. Again, thank you so much for tuning in this week to Crypto and Blockchain Talk. Remember to tell your friends and family to download us on a multitude of podcasting platforms. The full list is on cryptoandblockchaintalk.com. But our platforms include those such as iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, Acast, Google Music, Amazon Music, you name it. We're on all of these podcasting channels for your listening pleasure. If you also want to tune into crypto24radio.com, you'll hear not only news and music, but you'll also hear these podcasts played for you for your listening pleasure. We, of course, love to hear from you on our usual social media channels, which are Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. But also, we love hearing from you directly. So please feel free to email us at education@savvy.digital. That's education@savvy, SAVII digital.com. Again, thank you for tuning in. We really wish you all the very best when you're listening to these podcasts. So be safe, take care, and goodbye.